Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavatam Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami. Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sango Sangam Namami. And then I'll read in English a chant, the invitation to the Devas. From all around the galaxies, may the Devas come here. May they listen to the true Dhamma of the King of Sages, leading to heaven and emancipation. Those in heavens and from heavens of sensuality and form, on peaks and mountain precipices, in palaces floating in the sky, in islands, countries, and towns, in groves of trees and thickets, around home sites and fields. And the earth devas, spirits, gadabas, nagas, in the water, on land, in badlands, and standing nearby, may they come and listen with approval as I recite the words of the excellent sage. This is the time to see the Buddha, venerable ones. This is time to listen to the Dharma, venerable ones. This is time to attend to the Sangha, venerable ones. Now we'll do a little bit of a guided meditation. I'll start with 3 rings of the bell and end with 1 ring of the bell. I'll turn my sound on for this. So if you'll find yourself in whatever seated position you're in, if you'd like to close your eyes, I invite you to close your eyes. You rest your hands on your laps or on your legs. Try to be upright but not rigid or stiff. And we'll guide a short breath meditation. So I invite you to start by taking a few deep, slow breaths, at whatever pace you feel comfortable. Just attending to the body in this position, noticing any areas of tension, noticing any areas of ease, and maybe even neutral areas. And after these few breaths, we'll bring the awareness to the breath, wherever you find the breath most clearly, most easily. This could be the rising and falling of the belly or abdomen, a slight movement of the chest or shoulders, or the sensation of air coming in and out of the nostrils. But wherever you find the breath most clearly, most naturally, the invitation for this meditation is to rest the awareness there. And part of the practice of this type of meditation is understanding that the mind isn't going to stop thinking. We're not trying to make the mind stop thinking. That would be like making the body stop breathing, is what it does. We're being mindful of where the awareness lies. Does it lie on the breath? Does it lie in the thoughts? Whenever we realize that the awareness is elsewhere, kindly and gently come back to the breath and rest the awareness there again. And just keep coming back to the breath. And as you're mindful of where the awareness lies and bringing it back to the breath, we get to know the breath. Mindfully, we breathe in. Mindfully, we breathe out. And in this type of meditation, we utilize mindfulness not only when we rest the awareness on the breath, we're mindful of where the awareness lies throughout the meditation. We know when the awareness is distracted by the mind or other sensation. And we also practice loving kindness. Every time we kindly and gently bring the awareness back, releasing some judgment of ourselves, building the ability to be kinder and gentler to our own experience. And when we rest the awareness back on the breath, we're strengthening our ability to concentrate. We're able to be there for maybe half a breath longer. And as we have the awareness resting on the breath, building concentration, we provide some ease of the thoughts and some ease of the body. This meditation is a multifaceted process with simple instruction. Just keep coming back to the breath. As I end this meditation with the ring of the bell, you can feel free to open your eyes whenever you're ready. Thank you all very much for your practice. So I'll read from Anguttara Nikaya, which is the numbered discourses. There's about 2,400 short readings arranged into 11 chapters, and they're called the numerical discourses. So each chapter has its number. This is from the numbered discourses 8.6. It's called Worldly Conditions. And it's the Buddha talking to monks. Mendicants. The 8 worldly conditions revolve around the world, and the world revolves around the 8 worldly conditions. What 8? Gain and loss, fame and disgrace, blame and praise, pleasure and pain. These 8 worldly conditions revolve around the world, and the world revolves around these 8 worldly conditions. An unlearned ordinary person encounters gain and loss, fame and disgrace, praise and blame, and pleasure and pain. And so does the noble learned disciple. But what then is the difference between the learned noble disciple and the ordinary unlearned person? An ordinary unlearned person encounters gain, but they do not reflect, I've encountered this gain. It's impermanent, suffering, and perishable. They don't truly understand it. They encounter loss, fame, disgrace, blame, praise, pleasure, and pain, and they don't reflect, I've encountered this pain, it's impermanent, suffering, and perishable. They don't truly understand it. So gain and loss, fame and disgrace, blame and praise, and pleasure and pain occupy their mind. They favor gain and oppose loss. They favor fame and oppose disgrace. They favor praise and oppose blame. They favor pleasure and oppose pain. Being so full of favoring and opposing, they are not freed from rebirth, old age, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. They are not freed from suffering, I say. But a learned noble disciple encounters gain, and they reflect, I've encountered this gain, it's impermanent, suffering, and perishable. They truly understand it. They encounter loss, fame, disgrace, blame, praise, pleasure, pain, and they reflect, I've encountered this pain, it's impermanent, suffering, and perishable. They truly understand it. So, all of these things do not occupy their mind. They don't favor gain or oppose loss, or favor the others and oppose the others. They don't favor pleasure over pain. And having given up favoring and opposing, they are freed from rebirth, old age, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, sadness, and distress. They are freed from suffering, I say. This is the difference between a learned noble disciple and an unlearned ordinary person. And this sutta ends with some verse. Gain and loss, fame and disgrace, blame and praise, and pleasure and pain, these qualities among mankind are impermanent, transient, and perishable. An intelligent and mindful person knows these things, sees that they're perishable. Desirable things don't disturb their mind, nor are they repelled by the undesirable. Both favoring and opposing are cleared and disappeared, and they are no more. Knowing the stainless, sorrowless state, they have gone beyond rebirth, understand rightly. So I really appreciate this reading. It discusses this topic. It's called The 8 Worldly Winds, commonly. And the title of it, which I guess may be a bit less of a metaphorical translation, would be The 8 Worldly Conditions. These things that we encounter in our lives, every person, gain, loss, fame, disrepute, praise, blame, pleasure, pain. And a lot of us, and myself included, have trouble grasping on to certain ones and having major aversions to other ones. And so this duality that kind of gets set up in between each of these conditions. But they each have a flavor of suffering, because when we cling to something, eventually there will be suffering. When we are adversive to something, eventually there will be suffering. And if we have this misknowing that gain is very good and we need it, or loss is very bad and we don't want it, there will also be suffering. So the Buddha is pointing out that almost universally, people who don't come to or don't practice in a Buddhist sense, or even in just a spiritual sense, I don't want to claim that Buddhism has all of the answers, but if they're not practicing letting go and not clinging and not being adverse, then there's no end to the suffering that they're going to experience. I think for me, it's just an important topic to be able to continually present to myself as I continually experience gain and loss and all of the things that I said in that list. In my experience, being a person who attempts to meditate regularly, I'm not perfect. I don't get to do this all the time, every day, and that's okay. But that way that I was teaching meditation, in the sense of like, there's this mindfulness of knowing where the awareness is and what is coming up. There's that kindness where if I recognize, okay, I am craving or clinging or being averse to this, I can be kind to whatever is happening in the experience. And then find some freedom every time I come back to letting go or reorienting, or really not grasping and not being adverse. And over time, my belief comes from the experience of doing this for a handful of years now, is that I've experienced less suffering because of this whole process. And then there's a bit more of a topic here where we have these dualistic versus non-dualistic Buddhist views. You may be familiar with Zen or other non-dual traditions, where there's this ultimate and relative, and some of these things kind of fall into that, easily recognizable, well, that's a dualism. Why are we discussing that in a Buddhist sense, in a Buddhist setting? I think it's important to recognize that neither of these things, gain and loss, fame, disrepute, all of that kind of stuff, are really all that separate, because ultimately these things are, when we cling and are adverse to them, they cause suffering. And they don't necessarily have to cause suffering. In the beginning of that sutta, they say that the noble learned disciple also experiences all of these things, but they have a different relationship to them. They're actually utilizing these 8 worldly winds to direct themselves away from suffering and not towards suffering. They direct towards liberation. So one of the ways that I see that wind kind of metaphor that I like is that if these are the 8 worldly winds and we are this sailboat in the middle of the ocean going from one shore to the other, the closest shore being suffering, the furthest shore being liberation, we are bound to hit these winds. It's just how we're using them to get towards liberation is kind of the teaching here for me in a nice metaphor. Because I think that there are things that can be used. They don't have to be completely disregarded. They have this ultimate kind of messaging or wording in here that says that, you know, a enlightened person, a learned noble disciple is not moved by these things. And I take that from the Samugata from Upaya Zen Center. They talk about remaining unmoved by praise or blame. And I don't think that's necessarily it for me. As a person who's on the path, but maybe not a unlearned ordinary person and maybe not a learned noble disciple, I'm kind of navigating myself in the middle of this, understanding that I will be taken up by these winds, and I do get taken up by these winds. Praise and blame is a big thing that goes around in my mind. The physical pain and pleasure is a big thing that goes around in my body, and I get caught up in that just as much as the rest of us. But it's important to continually point that out in my own practice. Hey, I'm getting caught up in this. Let me understand how to use this to get further from suffering and not closer to suffering. So with that, I want to finish by reading this Samugata. It is a short prayer that the Upaya Zen Center uses for a reminder of how they want to do work, set intention for work. May this work be done in a spirit of generosity, not driven by ego, greed, or delusion. May kindness sustain us and prevail in conflict, and compassion guide us and lead us to understanding. May we rejoice in the successes of others and remain unmoved by praise or blame. I feel like I always want to add a little bit. And if moved by praise or blame, that's okay. Let's be kind to ourselves and continue to practice. So that is what I have as far as a Dharma talk and a meditation today. I really thank you all for being here with me. We have a little bit of time if anybody wants to ask a question, and if not, I can, if so, or if not, I'll read the closing I have whenever we're ready to be done.
I just want to say thank you, Keith Felicity, for being here today and teaching us. If you liked this experience, our Tuesday centering prayer ends with a loving kindness meditation from the Buddhist tradition every week, and so please come on Tuesdays for contemplative chapel. And next week we're going to have a discussion chapel around kind of how we're doing in our bodies, minds, and souls a year out of the election. And it'll be a time of holding our community, especially our community that's vulnerable and that needs connection. So please come again. And again, thank you, Keith Felicity. I hope you keep doing these chapels for us. I love them. So.
Thank you all very much. You got me for the rest of the year. So I'll read the closing I have. That part of the opening was an invitation to the Devas, and I feel like it was really nice to hang out with all the Devas, and I'd like to end with the verse ushering the Devas back home. May all beings who have fallen into suffering be without suffering. May all beings who have fallen into danger be without danger. May all beings who have fallen into sorrow be without sorrow. For the sake of all attainment and success, may all heavenly beings rejoice in the extent to which we have gathered a consummation of merit. May they give gifts with conviction. May they always maintain virtue. May they delight in meditation. May they go to a heavenly destination. From the strength attained by all the Buddhas, the strength of the private Buddhas, by the majesty of the Arhats, I bind this protection all around. May there be every blessing. May all the Devas protect you. Through the power of all the Buddhas, may you always be well. May there be every blessing. May all the Devas protect you. Through the power of all the Dhammas, may you always be well. May there be every blessing. May all the Devas protect you. Through the power of all the Sangha, may you always be well. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith Felicity.
Thanks, Reed. It was good to see y'all.